An elite New Hampshire prep school has a well-known reputation for graduating some of the best and the brightest, including 13 U.S. ambassadors as well as Secretary of State John Kerry. But it's St. Paul's School's reported private traditions that are now the focus of a rape trial underway right now. This former student, Owen Labrie, is accused of sexually assaulting a schoolmate in May of last year. She was just 15 years old. Now, the Associated Press cites a police report that Labrie did it for the so-called senior salute, a competition of sorts for seniors to have as many sexual encounters with underclass girls as possible. Now, the prosecution in this case, in opening statements today, emphasized that Labrie did not have consent.
Shortly after the assault, Chessie messaged him, asking him, "Did you wear a condom?" You'll see his responses that he sends back, "Are you on the pill? I think you're okay. We should be good. I put it on halfway through," referring to the condom.
Now, Labrie's attorney, who, by the way, represented Whitey Bulger, said there was no rape because there was no sex. Let's bring in CNN's legal analyst and criminal defense attorney, Philip Holloway. Also here, HLN's Nancy Grace, former prosecutor. Philip, I'll start with you. You say there is no way this defendant can get a fair trial. Why?
Well, what they're doing, Anna, great to be here, by the way, what they're doing is they are bringing in current and former students who are going to talk about this culture that they're calling it, this sexually deviant culture. And so in America, we don't prosecute people based on their character. We do not blame people for committing a crime because they have a certain character trait. This guy could be the most voracious sexual animal on campus, but unless he actually forced her to have sexual intercourse, he is not guilty of a crime. They are trying to basically condemn him for this culture that exists on this campus.
Nancy, do you agree that testimony should not be allowed from people who aren't specific to this case, that can talk about this so-called senior salute that some of the members go through?
Well, the law is as follows. While the defense attorney is correct that one may not be convicted on reputation alone, with that much I agree. However, if the motivation behind the alleged rape is the senior salute game, essentially a contest that the men at the school, St. Paul's, play, where they take the virginity or bed rape, and is euphemistically called often.
Well, taking somebody's virginity doesn't necessarily mean it's rape. It has to be done without consent. And this culture that they're describing doesn't mean it was non-consensual.
And I'd like the chance to finish. What you're asking me is whether other students will be able to testify to this game called the senior salute. I'd like to finish, repeat. To explain the game, someone may come in and explain that to the jurors if it's proven that that is what Labrie, the defendant, was doing. I'm much more concerned, not so much with the game, as to the actual evidence showing rape. And I believe that will be shown by a nurse testimony that there were lacerations in this teen girl's vagina showing recent sex activity. Now, if he were arguing this was consensual, that wouldn't count for so much. But the fact that Labrie is claiming there was no sex at all, and then the girl shows up with lacerations in her vaginal area, that to me disproves his defense totally.
How do you defend against that kind of evidence, Philip?
If there is such laceration, and it's going to be up to an expert to talk about that, they're going to have to prove that that laceration, if it does exist, was caused by non-consensual sexual intercourse between these two people, which goes back to what I was saying earlier. They're bringing in all these current and former students who weren't there. They didn't see what happened. They don't know what happened. And so to say that a laceration alone or one injury was a result of a rape is absolutely putting the cart way before the horse. You can't convict based on that.
First. Forget about all the other students. I mean, you sound like a broken record. I'm talking about the alleged victim that will testify to what happened. Not only that, there are 10 counts to this indictment, 3 of them being aggravated sexual battery, i.e. rape. Also, endangering a child, sexual misconduct, and luring her over Facebook and email. They performed a search warrant on Labrie's computer, and if he lured her to the location of the incident under false pretenses and then ended up raping her, there's more jail time to be had.
Well,
Philip,
people
you
are
talked
presumed
about the
innocent.
culture. You talked about the culture and that should not be necessarily used against him in this case, the overall culture at this school, allegedly. St. Paul did release a statement, and I want to read that for you, saying current allegations about our culture are not emblematic of our school or our values or rules or the people who represent our student body, alumni, faculty, and staff. Now, beyond that, when you look at the defendant himself, we're learning that he was supposed to go to Harvard. He was actually going to study religion. Do you think that some of that information is going to come up in this trial, Philip, to sort of build up his character?
Well, I do, because a person's good character, on the other hand, can sometimes be used as a defense. People are presumed to be innocent. The things that we saw in these opening statements, that's not evidence. The judge will tell the jury that. It is way too early in this case to start calling somebody a rapist or deciding that someone did or did not do something just because the prosecution says so in opening statements. The jury is going to have to decide who is the winner of this swearing contest, Anna, between the defendant and his accuser. That's what it's going to come down to, is actual evidence from the people that were there and who the jury believes.
Nancy, final thought.
You know, I keep hearing the defense attorney say the same thing over and over and over, regurgitating the same few sentences. That's because he's right in one aspect. This is not about the climate or the culture at the school. He's wrong in this count. It's about what this victim says and what the forensics show.
It's about whether the jury believes her.
That's what this is about.
All right, on that note, Philip Holloway, Nancy Grace, our thanks to both of you. And you can watch Nancy each weekday at night at 8 o'clock Eastern on our sister station HLN.
Thanks,
Up
Anna.
next, police.